Happy New Year. Wait, let's do that again. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Well, almost. But yes, Happy New Year.
Well, by the time I get around to doing the edit, it'll be 2022.
2022. Yeah.
Another year. I like the sound of 22 though.
Well, after 2021 was sort of a dumpster fire. Yeah. I think you could call 2022, 2027. You can call it anything you want. I mean, it's got to be better.
So,
right.
Well, so there, how does this work? We have the 2020 is that being considered? Oh, hold on here. Let me help the dog out. He's old. He needs help.
That's okay.
He can't open doors like he used to. So 2020 was what? The forgotten year? And then 2021 is the dumpster fire? Which one? I thought 2020 would be ranked.
Well, isn't 2020 and 2021, isn't that the same? Like, wasn't it just like one big continuation?
Oh, yeah. I've talked to some people that think that.
And then I think there was a moment where we thought that 2021 was going to have a unique identity and it was going to like turn that corner.
Mm-hmm.
And then that sort of like pulling the football out, like just as you're about to kick it, Charlie Brown kind of thing. 2021 sort of like
the psych.
Yeah.
Psych your mind, as we used to say in grade school. Psych your mind. Yeah. I think you're right. It didn't turn that corner.
No.
I don't know. Would that be a 180 or a 360? Because it didn't really go anywhere.
It was like a Jedi mind trick. It was like, psh, like
that's true.
Yeah.
And so basically what you're saying
is not the year that you're looking for.
That's right. 2021. It's like just one long thing. So on the bright side,
we've got an even numbered year. And for some reason, the even numbered years, they just seem, I don't know what they seem. I'm just making stuff up. I
get it. But there's twos. There's this.
There's a whole twos thing. Yeah. So
twos, yeah.
Could be.
They say bad things happen in threes. So that means good things happen in twos. Sixes. I just got a phone one. I got to phone a friend. I got to phone a friend from the better half.
Other room. Yeah, you're
in the other room.
We're doing the numerology now.
We have to wait. We have to wait 4 more years.
We didn't know we were going down the numerology like rabbit hole here.
Well, yeah. If numbers are spoken within earshot of my in-house numerologist, then beware. So
gotcha.
We're 4 years out from a good year, I guess. Is what we just found out. Okay. Well, 2 times 2 is 4. That's still not enough. 2 times.
This is the funny thing is that we've had a few times where we've talked about your math skills.
Yeah. I exposed myself again.
Yeah. There. Yeah. And I think in this episode we are going to talk some numbers. So
letters
and numbers and analogies. It's a short episode, folks, but it's gonna get interesting real quick. So buckle up.
Yeah. So I mean, do we want to talk about coffee at all?
Well, I'm
change the math subject.
I'm totally caffeinated and still going. And you've got the Yippee.
Yeah, our favorite. Oh, special guest, cat butt. I like that extra pause. Let's just slow down.
Slow down. Yeah, he's just kind of a prima donna.
That's right. Well, Cameo, the Cameo cat. It's too bad your cat's not a black cat. We could have just called that a glitch in the Matrix.
Exactly. Right.
What do you got? I mean, you have a white. What do you call that color? White and brown. Is there a special? Cat people have weird names for
not-
colors,
yeah,
like
I know they do.
tabby and
He apparently,
calico and
I have learned that he's a fire tip.
oh.
Exactly. I was like, oh,
So what does that mean for the Matrix?
that sounds awfully fancy.
Is that just an upgrade?
I guess. I mean, and because someone named him a fire tip and he had this sort of unique coloring, because he does have sort of an orangey like spots and
A singe.
like singe to his fur. Yes, exactly. That's why he's named Zuko. So the Nickelodeon Avatar Firebender.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
We had talked about that one time.
Yeah, I know. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Especially, yeah. Okay.
More pop culture references. So unique names, but it does tie to his unique markings and his prima donna paws.
Sometimes I wonder how we should sell this podcast to people. How do you promote? And so maybe we can ask our listeners and viewers, are we more pop culture with a little coffee, or is it a little coffee with a little architecture and design sketching? Or is it changed depending on what our mood is?
It's a good question, but I think that the thing that because I have thought about it as well, and I think that there is an element of it's just storytelling, right? I mean, architecture and design and art it's about communicating with an audience. And so I think that as creators, right? I think both of us as architects and artists, we're inspired by other creators. So there's a lot of sort of real world and pop culture kind of references to the things that we're interested in.
Yeah,
that's sort of where I've always landed with it. I mean, because I think that there's an element of like some hardcore, kind of architecture theory that is going to, land with a very, very small audience. And then there's other stuff that is really relatable and sort of just our take and our view on things that we're pretty excited about or interested in or curious about. Yeah. Alligators and cryptocurrency. I mean,
don't start that again, because we'll veer right off the tracks.
Yes.
Into tears of joy.
So what's in the cup?
So
real quick,
over the Christmas holiday, I was surprised on I think it landed right on the day after Christmas, because I don't think they shipped anything on Christmas Day. And I got a surprise package from my dear friend Jamie across the screen here, who included a few key items which will probably dawn in the new year as I wait for some of those things, some clothing items, swag and so on. And then I got a bag of Little City, which I've been waiting to get more of since Jamie hinted at that. But it's the crown. What was it? It's called the
Violet Crown.
Violet Crown. That's yes. Which I read on the bag. Is it like a nickname of Austin, or something?
It was the original name of Austin. So
that's cool. Yeah, I like how Little City puts a little local puts that flair into their stuff, the local flair. And so it's a great flavor too. I don't know if you've had it. It's the Violet Crown has a little bit of a kind of a berry tone or berry flavor, as in fruit berries.
Yep.
And a couple other nutty notes after the main fruit flavor. Oh, there's Zuko. Let's see if he pauses again. Yeah, he does. A little show off.
He is. He's just a little bit of a. It's just going to be that kind of an episode.
He doesn't like the Violet Crown. Maybe.
No, he's looking for stuff to just grab off the desk, and
he's ready for the new year.
Yeah. It's like it's going to be a party. Come on.
He's like 2020 what?
Yeah.
All right. I'll stop speaking for your cat there. He's coming back. He heard me. He likes me.
All right.
all cats like me, but I can't like on cats too much because I'm allergic. So I just, as long as I don't rub my face in their fur, I'm fine. So there's that. Anyway, back to you. And what have you been doing?
We've totally gone off the rails, but
I
it's
know,
okay.
but thank you for my
You're very welcome.
Christmas gift.
Yeah, no, I had been meaning to send the coffee for a while and decided I was at least going to get it to you by Christmas. So, but yeah, no, I mean, Little City is great. I'm finishing up the last of my maple pecan that I like to have at the holiday season. So cheers.
Yeah. Well, and we one other thing that we've been doing lately is the weather check-in. So what you got going on down?
We have a high of 81 today. Yeah.
Well,
so not sweater weather. I mean, but we're supposed to drop down for a freeze on the weekend. So there is that. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And maybe that freeze is attributing or part of what we're supposed to be getting, I don't know, anywhere between 3 and 6 inches tomorrow. But right now it's only 38. It's kind of damp because it snowed a couple days ago and now it's melty, which is less fun.
Right. Yeah, the dirty snow, not so cool.
Yeah. And the muck. Yeah. Especially when you got to walk the dogs in it. So thanks for the weather update.
Yeah, well, good luck.
It's cold. You're not cold. 81.
Not cold. Like short sleeves for sure. Not just inside the house, but
well, one day soon. We have passed the solstice, which I think we already talked about, but so now the days will get longer, which I like. I like that trajectory. Longer days means warmer too. Anyway,
throwing up the 2. Yep.
Don't bring up math again. I don't know if I can.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll ever redeem myself from that. So should we jump right into the sketch for the day?
Yeah, because I mean it's New Year's Eve, so this is going to be our New Year's tradition little episode. I mean, to start, since we'll be airing this as sort of the start of our 4th season.
4 more math.
First episode, 4th season.
That's right.
So there you go. 4th season in 2022. 4 plus 2 equals
6.
6. Magic number.
There we go.
So there you go. We did it.
Are we what's the Nostradamus?
Oh, I thought this was going to be like a Sesame Street reference.
He's a he was good at predicting things, right?
Oh gosh.
So our 4 plus 2 equals 6 is a good sign.
Yeah.
We're moving in the right direction. Yeah. Okay. So as we continue on our New Year's resolutions. So anyway, tell me about this sketch and what we've also done, a little bit of tradition, right, is some words for the new year. So I think you have a story in this one, and then I think it'll lead to a word that you're thinking of.
Yeah. No, so I think that on Christmas morning, the James Webb Space Telescope was launched, and it's like crazy amount of money, crazy amount of years in development. People can argue left, right, and center about the amount of money spent on the space program and science and things like that. But I think that this particular sketch was just, I mean, that as much as I have nothing to do with anything regarding the space program or anything like that, I love science, and I love that the inspiration that it gives and the amount of knowledge and work that goes into just dreaming about these sort of innovations and ways to study the world and explore is just, it's so energizing for me just to think about the way that it can captivate so many people. And then the images are from space, or celestial objects from the Hubble Space Telescope. All of those things they just always captivate my imagination. I mean, have always sort of inspired just a love of learning about those things and what goes into them. And to hear that kind of an event was about to occur was pretty special, because about 9 years before, him and I got to see NASA was on like this crazy tour with their life-size replica of the space telescope, the Webb Space Telescope. And they were talking about the science of what they were trying to do, and getting people interested in science, really, and in the work of NASA, and sort of STEM and STEAM and those kinds of concepts, I think. And so they were in Austin for the South by Southwest Festival. And South by Southwest is not just music, it's music and film and education and interactive. And so there's a digital component, and there's a lot of things that get unveiled at South by. Twitter, for instance, made its debut at South by. But in this particular year, they had this life-size mock-up that they were touring around the country for certain events of the Space Telescope. And when you see it, you're just like, how do you get something like this into space? And it's just because it's crazy big. It's like as big as like a tennis court, and has this gigantic mirror that's gold, that's multiple times the size of the mirror that's on the Hubble Space Telescope. I think it's like 3.5 times as big.
Wow.
And when you consider how big Hubble was and how difficult it was to get it up into space, it was brought up into space by the space shuttle, and then had to be repaired at one point, and the mirror replaced. I mean, there was all these
contact lens, didn't it?
I mean, there was there was all these things that went into that. And so you think about all that effort and technology, and this thing is, the mirror itself is at least 3 times as big. And then the distance that they're putting it into space is like 1 million miles away from Earth, at a point where you can't even go to repair it necessarily.
Right. It's not that far yet, right?
No. Right now, there's a really cool website that I'll send you the link on, where you can follow along on its journey, its live update. Because as it's going there, and that's the thing, is that when you saw this thing in real life, and you're like, wow, this thing is huge. How are they going to put this in a rocket? Like, we don't really even have the space shuttle anymore. Like, how's this thing going up there? It's crazy big. It's got all these parts. It's spread out. And so what it is there's this kind of orchestrated org of it unfurling itself over time as it's making this journey out there. And so there's this, series of, movements that it's doing in terms of unfolding itself. And it's really fascinating. And so kind of geeking out about it and watching its journey. And when I got to see it with Em, she was equally excited. I mean, she's always been equally excited about all things space. And so this, to me, is that sort of sketch of astronaut dreams and reflections of the Webb Space Telescope in the mirrored visor. And so it's
sorry, I didn't mean.
No. So that's where this sort of stems from, and I can talk about all the kind of nuances of things that I've learned in reading about the Webb of the last week or so. But the one thing I do want to share is, like, there's this crazy thing. We're going to talk about analogies, I think, more in a moment in terms of learning things. But because I didn't, when they were talking about the Webb Space Telescope, they kept saying it's going 1 million miles away, way past the moon. It's going to be on this kind of the dark side of the Earth. And like, how does that work? And how does it stay there, and like orbits and all that kind of stuff? Because they want to get it on the cold side of the sun, in a sense. So because the sun's still going to, radiate on it, and temperature fluctuations and all that, but they want the instruments of this object, this telescope, to be effectively pointed away from the sun, so that it can do its work. So it's got this huge solar shield and that's part of the tennis court size, thing that's sort of protecting it. But when you start thinking about that, still, it's still orbiting. It's like, because it's not where, how far are you putting it out there, and how is it going to relate and not fly off into space and whatever. So they kept referring to this thing called the Lagrange point. And I was like, what is this Lagrange point? Like, what does that mean? And so I finally saw a description of it. And what I realized was, it's in simple terms, it's a point at which the magnetic fields of the Earth and the Moon and the Sun, there becomes these locations in space where they're in balance effectively, which is crazy as a concept, right?
Uh-huh.
And so there's an actual point in space where it's in balance. So what they're doing is they're putting this object in orbit around that balance point. And the balance point is created by the Earth and the Sun. So it's always going to be in the same,
like equally attracted, or
exactly. And so it'll always be on the shady side of the Earth relative to the Sun.
Huh.
It'll be in orbit, but at the same time, it'll be in a tight orbit around that shady point. And which to me is just, you think about it like throwing a pebble in a pond, and all these sort of ripples and currents and flow, and that there's this sort of balanced point that is always going to be there. And the fact that we know that it's there, and that that's fascinating to me.
It is fascinating. It's also, it sounds very complicated.
Right.
And somehow, but it's still less complicated than the blockchain and cryptocurrency is to Jay.
Oh gosh. Yeah. As much as I'm explaining this.
How many alligators?
Gosh.
How many alligator references does it take to solve the Webb Space Telescope?
I don't know. My mind can go there, and I can enjoy it, and I can delve into understanding it. And I can do a sketch like this.
Yeah.
That to me is about, I use the hashtag ad astra, Latin for to the stars.
Cool.
And maybe that's just my word for this year.
I think that's a nice optimistic choice, and hopefully good timing on the NASA's part for launching this telescope that can hopefully get people sort of looking beyond where we are now. Yeah, I was thinking about when you mentioned your fascination on all these things that NASA's done, Hubble and now Webb, and I saw the time-lapse video of like the probe that went around the sun, right? Is it in the orbit of the sun or something?
Yeah.
And first, I don't know how this thing didn't melt, just totally melt, but it
broke through the corona.
And then there's the video, and then it shows how there's the Milky Way, and then Earth and other planets like in its view from the corona. It's pretty fascinating, pretty wild to think about. And the clarity, there's enough clarity in that image that you can go, oh yeah, I can see that. It's not like, remember the early photos of space saying like, sure.
Yeah.
Looks like a star or something.
Yeah. When people just think that there's still some people who think we never went to the moon. And it's like,
it was a soundstage. Soundstage in Burbank, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, but those are also the people who don't realize that there are actually two space stations in space, and us and the Chinese have one, and the Chinese actually have a lander that's on the moon, and India has also sent something, and there's people who just don't believe that science is real. So cheers to them. 2022. So
22.
It's all a Jedi mind trick. So.
So I guess I have an image to share too.
Yes, I know. Well, you got to tell me your word, and you tipped your hand. I have to admit, you tipped your hand with your Instagram that this might be the word for 2022. I can't even say it. God.
Well, you have to practice
Yeah.
eventually.
Just go to.
By the end of, oops, wrong share. Go to this screen.
There you
So
go.
I made a drawing. It's not a sketch. Well, I guess you could call it a sketch in digital form, which we've talked about a long time ago. And how I explore various softwares like
So this is Grasshopper.
Grasshopper and Rhino. Yeah, this is a generated drawing from a Grasshopper script. Which, so here's my quick little story, right? So this is I've minted an NFT. So I don't really have one word. I have three words: non-fungible token. Or if you want me to do one word, I guess I have to say NFT or something. I don't know. That doesn't really roll off the tongue.
NFT is I think it's going to be a word.
When
So,
you say, I guess if you just say the letters, it's still it's
yeah.
a word. NFT. So I minted an NFT, right? This is a little experiment I have. So I have a neighbor. I have many neighbors, but my one neighbor across the street has gotten himself into some cryptocurrency and NFT land, and he's acquired a few different NFTs and interested
This sounds like
in
a
this
whole
whole
like
world.
back alley transaction at some point. There's like an element to this that sort of feels, but I'm right there with you.
The transactions are all online, so there's got to be some back alley online, right? That
A la the Matrix.
That's
Yes.
right. So what I did was as an idea, right, to see how this works, I developed this little script. I actually have had this sort of this Grasshopper script for a year or so. I was fiddling around and trying to learn how to use Grasshopper and came across like something like this, which is super simple, right? This is not a very high tech, what's the high level of complexity sort of Grasshopper piece of code.
I mean, I like the image. I mean,
there's plenty of architects out there that probably go, oh yes, I could do that in like 2 minutes, right? So anyway, so it's not the most complex thing, but a kind of a fun little thing, and it generated a kind of an interesting, I don't know what to call it, composition.
It's like sort of almost like a torqued form. I mean, there's a level of motion to it that I sort of see it like it's like caught mid spin.
Yeah, and the fun part about digital design work is that it's anti-gravity, right? There's no gravity, just like in space. So there's our segue from the Webb telescope. So the Webb telescope might pick this thing up in a few years. So so the premise, right? So we're entering 2022. So the boundary of this piece of art is 22 units by 22 units by 22 units tall. So if you wrap this thing in a cube, right, it's 22 units, all three sides. And then there are 22 what I call straws, these sort of round pipe objects. There's 22 of those that were randomly scattered inside of this cube or this boundary using a randomizing function in Grasshopper, where when you do these randomizing calculations, see, I can't do math, but Grasshopper can do the math. And you provide a seed, right? So you can pick a number or a range of numbers, and it sort of seeds the randomizer, right? So it takes the seed and it goes, okay, and it plugs it into its calculation. So I chose the 22nd seed, right? So I picked 22 as the seed number. So that seed number generated 22 of these straws inside of a volume of 22 by 22 by 22, right? So you get the point, right? It's 2022 and numerous amounts of 22. So then I minted this object, or what NFTs are called, objects sometimes. I don't know. I don't know everything about it yet. So it's now live and for sale, and the selling price is 0.22 Tezos. So Tezos is the currency that it's minted with. I don't really see, I guess. I don't know how to explain it that well. But it resides on this website called Hic et Nunc, which is kind of the host that uses this Tezos currency. Right. So they're affiliated with each other. And so anyway, so it's on this website for 0.22 Tezos. I minted 22 copies, so this continuation of the numerology of 22, lots of 22s. Hopefully, if you add up all the 22s that I've created, it doesn't equal
6.
Yes, hopefully 6 and not some bad number that
6.
we don't want.
6.
So anyway, so I thought it'd be kind of fun. Maybe the abundance of 22s will be clear, and that gives it a little bit of a cachet or some sort of catch for the new year. And so there you have it. So I don't know. My whole point in making this little experiment is to try and understand the relationship of design as what we do in architecture, and using some of the tools that we use, and how we can find a way to communicate in this sort of realm, or this new frontier of NFTs. Or I'm not necessarily expecting to get rich. Like they're for sale, I think the equivalent of like $1.
Right.
So it's not like I'm out there trying to become the next billionaire of NFT land, but it's an interesting platform and an interesting sort of outlet, I suppose, creative outlet, and a place for other to maybe engage with some other creators too. So I've found along the lines of getting this up there, a couple other people that are using Grasshopper or other sort of visual computer code languages that generate these graphic pieces of art. So it's an interesting community, I guess.
Well, and that's the beauty of it. I mean, that sort of level of experimentation and sort of curiosity that you have. The minute you started teasing this stuff out, I recognized some of it, and then immediately had a bajillion questions about, like, what is an NFT? No, it's more like, what have you learned about NFTs, and what have you learned about crypto, and what have you learned about all this mining business with Bitcoin? And you were very generous in indulging my questions earlier today of the things that you've learned, but it all definitely comes back to like alligators and cryptocurrency, and finding out like why Florida apparently has created their own cryptocurrency. And I think that's the thing for me, is that I'm still trying to understand if there are multiple cryptocurrencies, and not necessarily that they're all competing against one another, but I guess that the exchange of them and the exchange of them sort of validates them a bit and increases their value, or similar to like an art situation. I mean, I'm getting a better understanding of the NFT related to its value and how that relates to a certificate of authenticity, is sort of what the cryptocurrency part of it is. I still don't quite understand how the multiple currencies all work, and how one can just, like the state of Florida, but I guess that is also sort of the state of Florida, like announcing that they've got their own.
What could be more Florida than that?
Right. Yeah. Like, what were you saying? Like, go pay your, water bill with alligators out of the toilet? I don't know. I mean,
yeah, something like that.
No, that's not the way we mine Bitcoin.
Apparently they haven't been to Florida.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I don't know. Yeah. Well, I guess this kind of leads to it to be continued, because we'll see. Right. So far, you can see I haven't sold any. So not that I'm trying to push.
No, but you just want to see
audience.
like you've opened one door and you've like discovered the next door, and now you're like, okay, what's beyond the next door, and so on. I mean, that's sort of fun. I mean, and the fact that you decided to do this in 2021 leading into this year, I mean, why? Of course not. It's like a new adventure. That's fun.
Yeah, as if I didn't have enough going on.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, and you described it too, as sort of the way our industry works. There's a level of intellectual property that we're always sort of battling against. And because there's the concept of, is it really all original ideas, or is it how we're not making widgets? So, but at the same time, there's still a value in what we do and the thoughts that we have, and like you were just describing with the piece that you've created. I think that story of it even adds to just the visual appearance. There's already sort of a curiosity about what you're seeing. And then when you kind of read that artist statement, I think I always, in a museum, I always sort of treat it as there's two readings of everything. Mm-hmm. There's the, initial kind of, I'm seeing this in first impression, and then I'm getting to read the process. I'm getting to read the artist, some of which I may agree with and some of which I may not. But at the same time, that duality, that dialogue is I think is part of it as well. So to hear you talk about that and this new experiment that you're trying, I mean, I think it's pretty exciting for a whole new, that's a great way to start the new year.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I like that. There's definitely a reading from the viewer, like you approach a piece of art, and then again, reading if they post the artist statement next to the painting and so on, would potentially adapt or modify or alter your perception another time. So yeah, I think that there's an interesting pursuit of it. So anyway, we'll like I said, to be continued on that one, since it's out there. So it's kind of fun. Yeah, and hope, I guess, maybe leave it there and leave it with an optimistic 2022. Right? Yeah.
Happy New Year.